You're not really ready until you're safe. Summer safely and drive calm.
Trying to quit smoking? You don't have to quit alone. Way to Quit is here if you need help, have questions, or just need to talk. Tips, resources, and coaches are just a phone call away. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW or visit waytoquit.org.
Good morning. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with the KSL Greenhouse. Maria and Ton taking your questions, 801-575-8255. You can also text us at 57500. Ton, our next listener says, what fruit trees are of less maintenance for Eagle Mountain?
Well, they're going to be the same maintenance no matter where you plant them. And honestly, if you aren't interested in doing a lot of maintenance on your fruit trees, it's going to be cheaper to buy the fruit locally from local farmers at gardeners markets or roadside stands. You know, if you're looking for just a lower maintenance fruit tree in general, the plums are generally lower maintenance and don't require as much spraying. Their usable life's usually 15 to maybe 25 years.
All right, let's take a call from Mike in Syracuse. Good morning, Mike. How can we help you this morning?
Good morning to both of you and happy Saturday.
Yeah.
I bought a couple of Pacific Sunset maples last year. Through the summer, the leaves gradually yellowed, and by the end of the summer, there was some brown on the edges. I'm guessing iron chlorosis, and I did a little bit of looking on the USU extension site for some solutions, but I didn't know if you thought that was the right diagnosis, and then I just had a question about treatment.
Well, you said they were new trees last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It could be a number of things. The Pacific Sunset maples generally do not get a lot of iron chlorosis, especially, are you above the bluff or below the bluff?
We are just below the bluff.
Okay. So if you were in some of those areas that were never farmed, you know, then there could be some problems with soil salinity, especially out toward the golf course there in Syracuse. There have been salinity issues, and that would cause some of what you're seeing. But if you're like living on an old alfalfa field, that wouldn't be true. So do you know?
And we are right next to the golf course, so it could be the salinity then. Yeah.
It could be. And if it was getting average amounts of water and it wasn't being overwatered, you could be seeing some impacts, because in that same area, I grew up in the area, so I had buddies that lived out there and still do, and I noticed that trees that normally don't get the leaf yellowing can in that area. The alkalinity is probably a little bit higher. So normally those Pacific Sunset maples are great trees, but it could be the water. So some things you could try doing is, are you on secondary or using culinary for irrigation?
Secondary.
Okay, and do you know where your secondary is sourced from? Is it off the Davis-Weber Canal or Weber Basin water?
I believe it's off of the canal, but I'm not sure.
Okay, and I think that water is fine for what you're doing. When you water deeply, and then don't let the soil completely dry out, but don't overwater. That would be something you could try, but it may be that you need to swap out over a number of years for some different trees that are going to be more tolerant of your conditions.
Okay, and do you have any suggestions for those conditions or trees that would
you could
be a better
look
fit?
at maybe hawthorn. There are many beautiful hawthorns. There's one called thornless cockspur hawthorn that's quite nice. Spring snow crabapple would be one you could look at. Any of the oaks. Kindred spirit is one that's more columnar but only gets 25 to 30 feet tall and about 6 wide. There's some out there that would do well. If you wanted something bigger, hybrid elms, common hackberry would be another one that you could maybe look at.
Okay. Thank you. And then just one quick comment. I heard a caller earlier asking what was eating the radishes. I can confidently answer, not my children. Appreciate your help.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
For your call.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you grow a garden and then your kids turn their nose up at stuff and you would think, I may as well just be growing cement.
I know, it's sad. I do love radishes, though, but I don't think I liked them as a kid. I think it's one of those things that you grow to like.
No, and for a while, my wife and I were roasting them in the oven. And then using just like a little bit of garlic butter or olive oil. And there's some different things you can do with them, but the radishes are much more useful than just salads.
I have never done that with radishes.
Yeah, and so there's some recipes out there. When we used to have Raven Albertson on, she introduced me to one or two, but they're pretty good. They lose their pungency. Yeah, that pungent flavor, and they take on a little bit more mild flavor, and they're not bad, especially in stir fries and things.
Would kids eat them that way?
I don't know.
Would your kids eat them that way? I guess
No.
is the question.
I mean, if it doesn't say
they're still
Twinkie or
not
Fruit
gonna-
Loops, it's pretty hard to get them to get it down.
Oh, that's terrible. Next listener says, is there something they can put on their lawn under a pine tree to neutralize the acid?
This is something that we address quite commonly. The needles don't acidify the soil. They need to rake the needles up. And if that doesn't work, then there's too much shade there from the pine tree, and they're going to maybe need to limb the pine tree up a little bit, because it's just the pine tree inherently doesn't have anything that makes the soil toxic. It's just more the pile of needles or the shade.
All right. Next person says they do have an area that's covered with pine needles that fall from a neighbor's tree over the fence. And is it good to leave them on the ground as a weed barrier? And if so, what can they plant in that area that might do well?
Well, in those areas, outside of Utah, east of the Mississippi, especially in the Atlantic states and the Southeast, pine needles are sold as mulch. You can buy bales of them, just like we would peat moss. And so they make a great ground cover, and they're very good at holding weeds back. Now, I'm just going to refer back to the other text on the amount of sunlight. If it's getting a decent amount, even though it's shady, if it's getting some filtered sunlight, then any shade perennials, shade-tolerant shrubs would be just fine in that area.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Jonathan is in Harriman. Good morning. How can we help you this morning?
Yes, good morning. I have a small home orchard, and I have about 4 Gala apple trees. I have one Golden Delicious, but I planted a Fuji about 5 years ago, and I've had a really hard time getting it to fruit. And so I'm just wondering if there's anything I can do. It's a beautiful-looking tree.
And so the other trees are producing blossoms, and this one is not.
It had like 3 blossoms this year.
Okay, that's a good sign. Has it ever had any in the past?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so it is coming into maturity. Depending on the rootstock those are grafted onto, that can sometimes influence when the tree produces blossoms. And if you have a few this year, it could be that over the next few years, the tree greatly increases the number of blossoms. And so what you would do is just go ahead, leave it be, and if it for 3 or 4 more years, if it's still just 1 or 2, you may need to take it out. I see this quite commonly in apples, to where 1 in 50 just for whatever reason never really blossoms.
Okay, thank you for your help.
All right. Thank you for your call this morning. We'll take a break. The number to call, 801-575-8255. You can text us at 57500.
Advertising can be one of the hardest parts of running a business. Audience in Motion is here to help. Arm your business with our state-of-the-art ad tech at a price tailored to budgets of all sizes. Contact your local Audience in Motion representative to learn more today at audienceinmotion.net.
Run with us on a John Deere Z365RZ track mower. Built for taking it easy. We're talking lemonade on a lazy afternoon easy. That's why we added the Easy Change 30-second oil change system to make the job nice and simple. And with the convenience of standard mulch control, you'll control your clippings without any extra effort. So you can get back to the good stuff, because lawns aren't just for mowing, they're for living. Nothing runs like a Deere. Tap the banner for more.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us for the KSL Greenhouse. Maria and Ton with you this morning, taking your calls and answering your questions. Next texter, Ton, is wondering, they say they have a bunch of alliums in their flower beds. They're all in bloom, but all of the leaves are yellow and on the ground, and they've seen it in other yards as well. They're wondering why that might be.
Some species of alliums, it just happens. You'll still have beautiful flowers and the bottoms are going dormant already. It's totally normal. I really wouldn't worry about it. And one thing to check is just to make sure they're not being overwatered.
Okay, because that would cause that. All right.
It would also, but it's probably just the normal life cycle.
All right. Donna is in Sandy. Good morning, Donna. How can we help you this morning?
Yes, we have a State Street maple planted about 4 years ago. And this spring we noticed that the bark on the southeast side of the tree is starting to come away from the tree. The tree is nice and green. It looks healthy. But we're wondering, we had a tree in the same spot that died because of, they called it sun scorch on that side of the tree. Is this going to have the same thing?
Well, it could. The sun scald comes from just hot sun in the winter. Sap flows up through the trunk, and then it freezes at night, and water freezes as it expands as it freezes and bursts the conductive tissue, and it causes the bark to slough off where the trunk's exposed to the sunlight. So the solution is to wrap the tree in the fall with tree tape, and it's just a gauze, fabric tape that you start and work your way down, and then take it off in the spring.
Okay. So do you think it's fine? Do I pull the bark away? Do I just let it sit,
where the bark is
away?
Dead? Go ahead and just cut it back with a knife because it's already dead, and it'll help the tree just form new bark. And so rolling forward, what you want to do is wrap that in the fall, and as the bark recovers, it'll expand back into that area. And you'll just eventually just see a slit where it had sloughed off. But that tree tape can do amazing things.
Okay. I have one more question. I heard a lot of people say we probably lost maybe 8 shrubs that have been in our yard for probably 10-plus years. They've all died this spring. Rose of Sharon is looking like it's dying too. Is that all because of this drought we had through the winter?
It could be. My Rose of Sharon I've had in for 3 years. And I had a lot of tip dieback in mine. I have no idea why, because I thought it went in well watered, but they didn't get too much. And so the only thing I can figure is that the newer growth on the Rose of Sharon didn't harden off properly for some reason and was hit by cold weather or by drought. But what I would do is look at your Rose of Sharon, especially toward the middle of the plants.
I'm looking at it right now.
So are the leaves looking normal more toward the middle?
I have no leaves. They're all brown. There's nothing. That's why I'm wondering if it's just dead.
Well, what usually knock those out are too much or too little water. And for some reason, if they had water pooling up around them over the winter, that will kill them more quickly than anything as far as the winter is concerned. But the drought stress, they're usually pretty drought tolerant, and I more would think that it was maybe, too much water than a lack thereof.
Oh, well, I doubt it's got too much water because the yard slopes away from it, so I doubt that. Maybe do they have a lifespan? They
can live for 30 or 40 years at least.
They should be okay.
Yeah, I'm aware of some that are 40 years old. So it's something. If all of them died, it's something environmental, and it boils down to too much, too little water. Because usually something like verticillium or Phytophthora wouldn't take them all out at once.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your call this morning. Ton, a next texter says they have a Zelkova Sprite tree that's 3 years old. They live in Kaysville, by the way. It's not leafed out, and the buds are very dry, though the leaves low on the trunk are green. Is the tree dead? How would they know if the tree was dead?
If it's not leafing out yet, if it doesn't leaf out in the next couple of weeks, the canopy is gone. If it is leafing out from above the graft, then they could try to retrain it into a new tree. The Zelkova that I know of in Provo, Orem, even down where I'm at in Santa Quin, are leafed out.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it has not yet, and Kaysville is a bit warmer than a lot of the Wasatch Front, if it doesn't leaf out in the next few weeks, then I think that the canopy at least is done.
Could it be that it was stressed out from all of the windstorms?
Yes, it could be. The windstorms could scorch newly forming leaves that were just barely emerging, but we're just seeing this drought.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of plants out there that we're seeing damage in that we normally don't, and I'm wondering if it was just exceptionally dry and the roots desiccated and the canopy just died.
Yeah.
That is a possibility, but there's also, other things that could have happened.
No way to salvage it, though.
No.
All right. We need to
Unless
take a break.
they want to cut it and train it.
All right. We need to take a break for the top of the hour news. When we come back, we're going to talk about tips on lawn watering in this drought. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to the KSL Greenhouse Show. You can call us at 801-575-8255. Text us at 57500.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold. Our brand new second season focuses on the 1985 disappearance of a woman named Joyce Yost. Hear her voice for the first time. That's Cold Season 2, exclusively on Amazon Music.
Run with us on a John Deere Z365RZ track mower. Built for taking it easy. We're talking lemonade on a lazy afternoon easy. That's why we added the Easy Change 30-second oil change system to make the job nice and simple. And with the convenience of standard mulch control, you'll control your clippings without any extra effort. So you can get back to the good stuff, because lawns aren't just for mowing, they're for living. Nothing runs like a Deere. Tap the banner for more.